All right, let's get started making the game element, which is a requirement by FTC and gives us extra points when we're actually competing. All right, so first thing we're gonna need to do is grab a file. It is a vector file of our logo, which we're gonna extrude. Right now, let's go ahead and save the team game element, create a new project in Fusion 360, and a new folder inside that project. The project, you can call it Robotics CAD, and the folder you can call team game element, and we have to save our team game element in there. After you saved it, go to the file, export into an Inventor IPT file. Now let's make an extruded logo. It's going to use the same vector file that you downloaded earlier. So we're just going to go ahead and use that, extrude it out. This is going to sit on top of the game element. It's going to be a little bit smaller. The last logo we made was a bit bigger, and that's going to be bent around in a conical shape for the game element. So you may or may not be able to see this, but at the bottom of the logo, there's a little curve. We need to get rid of that curve because we want it to sit flat on top of the game element. So what we're going to do is go in and just draw a sketch there and make sure that it's flat. After that, we're going to go in and make a circular plate. So the logo will be sitting on top of that, and it'll be easier to assemble the logo in the end. so it looks like I forgot to extrude a bit, so I'm just gonna delete that face so I can have a complete circle without any holes or gaps. I'm also going to go ahead and make the game element a little bit smaller because I decided it looked weird when it was that extruded out or that had that much depth. So I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller, making a sketch using a separate work plane on top of the logo, and I'm just going to cut it down. Now, obviously, we have to go ahead and save the file, save it in the same project that you made for the previous part, and call it whatever you want. After that, we're going to go and export this as an Inventor part file, same as we did last time. First, let's go ahead and create a new sketch on the XZ plane. All right, and then let's make a circle that is 4 inches in diameter. And then we're going to create a new work plane, which is 5 inches offset from the XZ plane. We're going to click that work plane and create a new sketch. And then in that sketch, we're going to grab our circle tool again and then make a circle that is 2 inches in diameter. All right, now let's go ahead and use the loft tool, and we're going to select the 2 sketches, loft those 2 sketches together to create a conical shape. Now let's go over to our fillet tool, and we're going to fillet the top 2. The top edge and the bottom edge. Top edge is going to be filleted to a radius of 0.5 inches. Bottom edge is going to be filleted to a radius of 0.25 inches. Now we're going to go to the bottom flat surface and create a sketch there. We're going to attempt to make the hole in the cone. All right, so first thing we're going to do is make a circle with a diameter of 3 inches. And then we're going to use the loft tool immediately. Click that sketch and then go to the top, and we're going to select the edge of the flat surface there, change the operation to cut, and now you have your loft. Now we're going to go and grab the offset plane tool. We're going to offset a plane off the XY plane of 2 inches away. And then we're going to create a sketch on that work plane that we just created. We're going to go ahead and project some geometry. So if you remember, we made a fillet at the bottom edge, That edge now makes a straight line. We're just going to project that line so we can use it for reference for our dimensions. Next, we're going to go over and grab our circle tool. Make sure it snaps to the center or the y-axis, and then make those circles 0.25 inches. You're drawing 2. And then we're going to now dimension those circles to that line that we projected. First dimension will be from the bottom circle to the line, which is 1 inch. And the second dimension will be between the circles, which will be a measure of 1.5 inches. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and finish the sketch. We're going to extrude this out so that it only makes a hole with the first face of the cone. So it doesn't go all the way through. It only goes to the first face. It doesn't go out through the second. And we're going to make sure that this actually cuts into the hole, and then we're going to go ahead and check if it only goes to the first. And there's no specific distance. You can just drag that golden arrow and you'll have a distance where it'll cut just that first face of the cone. This is going to use to be putting our bent logo that we're going to make onto the cone. We're going to go grab the offset plane tool again, go down to the bottom flat face that you see and offset the plane by -5 inches. It's important because -5 makes the plane go up, 5 would make the plane go down. So we're going to create a sketch on that new plane, and we're actually going to first project the geometry, and that's about it. We're going to finish the sketch because project geometry makes it so that we have geometry that we can use for extrusions and other purposes. So now we're going to click the extrude button, and we're going to extrude it to a height of 0.25 inches. Change the direction if you need to, and click OK. Now we're just going to go ahead and grab the fillet tool and make the top edge smooth. We're going to fillet that to 0.225 inches. Now we're going to go ahead and fill a gap on the inside. We're going to create a new sketch on the XY plane, and then you guys can hit F7 or right click and select slice graphics so that we can see the inside of the cone. Alright, you can see that gap right there, but the first thing we're going to do is go to project geometry and project our top line and our diagonal line down the side, and we're going to go ahead and grab the line tool and go from the center of that line, that top line, down 0.25 inches, and then just draw a line from the bottom from the bottom of that line to the edge. Alright, after that, let's go into Revolve, and it automatically selects the sketch profile for us. We just have to select the axis, which is just going to be the vertical axis on that line. If you remember, we made a logo in Fusion 360. We're now going to bend that logo. First thing you want to do is just open up that logo in Inventor. I already have it done here, but because I'm a bit lazy and I didn't want to do the entire process again. But yeah, let's start. So first thing you want to do is create a sketch on one of the profiles, and you're going to draw a line from the center of the dip to the center of the dip at the bottom, because we need to use that line to actually bend the part. Alright, so now we're gonna bend the part. Go up to modify and then click on bend part, and here it's going to ask you to select a bending line. Go ahead and select that line that we drew, and then you're going to use the radius of 1.25 inches. Everything else stays the same. For bending the part, you're going to see a little bit of a preview with like a green highlight when you're attempting to bend the part. Alright, now we're going to create a new work plane, and it's going to be offset by 0.5 inches from the XY plane. And on that plane, we're going to create a sketch if you remember, we made two holes for the team game element, and now we're going to make those studs that are going to go into those holes. So first thing, we're going to project our geometry. We're going to project the point at the bottom dip. We're going to create two circles, 0.25 inches in diameter each. Dimension the bottom circle to the tip, to the projected point by 1 inch, and then the top to the bottom circle by 1.5 inches. And then now we can extrude those two in a symmetric extrusion of different distances. Distance A is going to be 0.75 inches and distance B is 0.25 inches. Alright, and that is the bent logo. Alright, so let's assemble this final product. So first we're just going to import our parts. First thing we're going to import is the extruded logo, so the small logo with the platform. And then the next thing we're going to import is the cone that we made, the custom cone that we made for this team game element. Alright, and with that team game element, you're going to right click on the team game element and, well, the cone, and you're going to ground that. And it's just going to make it so that the cone just doesn't move when we're assembling the final product. Next, let's click on joint, and then a joint essentially lets us attach objects to one another in whatever method we may use. In this case, we're going to use a rigid joint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the bottom platform for the extruded logo, and then the top flat part of the cone. And then I'm going to change the joint to a rigid joint because it just automatically chose rotational joint. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and insert the bent logo, robotics logo that we made earlier in Inventor, and then rotate it about the y-axis. Now we're going to go in and use the joint command, and this is kind of important. First switch it to rigid, then go to the bottom stud that we've made, and make sure you select the front part of that stud. You might get 3 other selections, make sure you select the front part. And then go down into close into the cone basically, and then you're gonna find the bottom hole that we've made in the cone, and you're gonna select the inside of that hole, and then it should just slide into place. And then now we're gonna make an offset so that the logo doesn't look like it's sticking out about 5 inches. So we're going to go and make a gap, as they call it, in the joint, and it's going to be 0.35 inches. And yeah, that's the entire team game element.